Hey guys, in this video I'll share some beginner tips which will help you in sculpting if you're new or just starting out. There are some things you need to understand how digital sculpting works, and I will share some 5 tips which will give you a head start in sculpting. Choosing a reference. For those new to sculpting, it's common to kickstart their journey by watching online tutorials and replicating the steps outlined in those tutorials. At this early stage, I highly recommend opting for a straightforward and uncomplicated subject such as stylized characters. Even if your ultimate goal is to master realistic sculptures, starting small and gradually working your way up to more intricate projects is a wise strategy. One effective approach is to search the internet for cartoon characters characterized by the simple shapes and basic forms. These uncomplicated shapes can be excellent starting point for beginners. Begin by blocking out the form using basic geometric primitives. This initial step not only helps you get a feel for the sculpting process but also builds a solid foundation for more complex creations down the road. As you advance, you can progressively challenge yourself with more intricate subjects and techniques, but beginning with simplicity is a smart and practical way to build your skills and confidence. Blocking out the silhouette. I've observed that many people face the most challenges when they first start sculpting, especially when they only have a reference and a default sphere to work with. To make this process more manageable, I suggest using primitive shapes and primarily relying on the move and smooth brush to block out the silhouette. The silhouette in the context of Zbrush is the black shadow that defines the character's shape on a white canvas. It is a crucial element in character design, and if you can get the silhouette right, you have already accomplished a significant part of the task. One effective way to achieve this is to start with a simple shape, like a cube, and gradually shape it to match the desired silhouette. When I work with spheres, I typically duplicate one and use 2 spheres to create the initial form. I also employ a specific brush alongside the regular move brush called move topology. This brush allows you to adjust multiple objects within the same subtool without affecting the others. As I said earlier, if your reference is simple and has basic forms, it will be easier for you to block out. Take this wrestle character for example. All I did is just use spheres and move brush. Look how close it matches the silhouette of the whole character. You can tell it by just seeing this is a stylized male character. This is why silhouette can be a powerful tool you can use to make your characters interesting. Add polypaint. Adding colors directly onto your sculpt is called polypaint in ZBrush and vertex paint in other 3D softwares. Adding polypaint early can be very helpful for understanding your subject. Similar to blocking out the silhouette, it is often referred to as blocking out the colors. Sometimes when you are in the middle of a sculpt, it is quite difficult to grasp the appeal of the character, and by adding polypaint, you will start to see those mistakes which you were not able to see it before. So add colors as soon as you are able to. What I recommend is, after you block out the character with basic primitives, just start adding paint to it. If you just add the eyes, just add the eyelids and paint the eyes. I have modified the default paint brush just to paint the eyes. While paint brush is selected, go to Alpha and select Alpha 58. Change the stroke type to drag rect and focal shift to -80. Then just click and drag it quickly. Make sure your mesh has enough topology so it doesn't get this much blurry. Painting the eyes is important. It drastically changes the visual language of a character. So guys, add paint to your character as soon as you can. Study anatomy like an artist. Fourth advice I would like to give is, beginner artists tend to stress too much out because of the anatomy. They just hear professional artists say learn anatomy and they just start searching for all the muscles and medical anatomy resources. Of course it helps, and there are tons of anatomy resources available for artists, and I recommend you check them out. But for me, what really helped me out there are the simple forms and the gesture of the anatomy. Stylized anatomy is the simplest figure you could study if you are the beginner artist. Again, like my tip number 2, use primitives and block out the basic forms of the human anatomy rather than trying to sculpt all the details with it. Stylized anatomy can also help you learn the gesture and silhouette of the human anatomy more quickly compared to the realistic one. For the references, just search stylized anatomy blockout on Google. You would find tons of references to practice with. Head, torso, spine, pelvis, arms and legs. Divide all the anatomy landmarks with basic primitives. Use smooth and move brush and just do the blockout. Make sure you rotate the model and be certain to block out from every angle of the character. There is always the S-curve from torso to spine if you look the body from the side. The body is never straight up from bottom up. You don't have to add the fingers on the palm at first. Just try to match the gesture of the hand. There are some differences for the male and female character, so you would also need to study anatomy like I mentioned earlier. Good resources which I find the best so far are the books by Aldous Darren's, Anatomy for Sculptors, and followed by some others. But it is important that you do by yourself. The fastest way to learn anything is by doing yourself. So don't just get stuck at tutorials. Start doing it. It will not look good at first, but by practicing you would improve yourself daily. So guys, study anatomy at its simplest way if you are a beginner. Just block out the whole body and forget about the details at first. Of course, there would be a time you would add the details, secondary forms and tertiary forms. But I recommend doing a human blockout from basic primitive first, then jump into the details later. For example, do a blockout of the whole male or female character, then after doing it so, study and divide the landmarks. For example, for the head and torso, sculpt separately. For the legs, study the arms separately, just like that. Look how I use just the basic spheres and block out a basic human body. If you look at the silhouette, any person can recognize by looking that it is a silhouette of a person. This is very important guys. Pay attention to the overall form first, then start jumping into details, because we see the silhouette first. If your foundation is wrong, nothing good you will put there will look good. Practice daily. The last tip is just obvious. Practice daily. I can't stress this enough. In drawing, they say you have to put 10,000 hours of practice into it in order to get good. Same law or advice you could say is applied for sculpting too. The sooner you get those hours in, the better you will get at it. Practice efficiently, not blindly. What I mean by that is target certain goals while you are sculpting. For example, make a goal to block out a complete male body today. And tomorrow, the goal could be just sculpting the head. Divide the study and practice. Don't stress it too much. Take it as a journey and not the destination. But it is important that you practice daily, even if you don't feel like it. Start Zbrush or whatever sculpting software you are using and just practice for 10 or 20 minutes. It is recommended that you at least put 1 hour of sculpt practice daily. Try to not skip any day. People often skip like 4 days and just sculpt 6 hours continuously on the 5th day. This is not the proper way to do it guys. Don't skip any day and sculpt at least 1 hour daily. This is not a hardcore rule to follow of course, but if you apply this method you will likely to improve fast. And that's it guys. These are the 5 tips from me to you. If you are just beginning to learn sculpting in Zbrush, you can follow my Zbrush crash course if you are a complete beginner. Or if you are already familiar with Zbrush, I have a level 2 course which is not a complete beginner. You can check out my Stylized character course or sculpting appealing characters. If you want to learn Stylized sculpting, my channel is good for you. Please subscribe, share this video and comment if you have any suggestion. I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.